While we learn about the opposition on the pitch, Wiser learns how to heat my home.
Rob, back into Europe this week and a double-header against Munster, a challenge at any time, but what's your thoughts ahead of it all?
I think it's going to be a great couple of rounds. I mean, our game against Munster, one of the kind of traditional Highland Cup powerhouses with a great history, is going to be fantastic. But I think the second legs are going to be some amazing games, because you can already kind of see some of the scripts that could happen. You know, teams that get big leads or good leads or happy lead, how you want to describe in this first leg, will have some real challenges when they go away, because teams are going to have an all or nothing, blood or guts approach to having to win the game. And likewise, you're going to have to go quite badly to be completely out of the game, and you'll have a second opportunity next week round. Also, how you manage the end stages of games is going to be very, very challenging this first round, because you can't kind of go, we've probably got this game won. Should we now get subs on, protect a couple of players? You know, some of the management that you might do sometimes at the end of a game, because really you don't want to be shipping late points. You don't want to take your foot off the gas. You want to keep scoring if you can and stopping the opposition scoring, because they could all be vital next week. So it's going to be a very interesting challenge for us, and one that I think most coaches and most clubs are probably really looking forward to. But the story's really going to unwind next week. This is kind of like the prelude to the big events of next week, I think.
You used to going back to back in Europe, but this scenario now, I'd probably take you back to probably 2010 when you played Bristol in the Championship playoff final. It's more like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I can remember being involved in an actual genuine knockout double header would be that, because I think every other round was one leg, and it was a unique scenario then, and it was interesting that, you know, I can say this because everyone will remember it who was involved. You know, we were dead and buried after the first leg, and we won the first leg. So, you know, it does create a really interesting dynamic, and because people thought there was no way we would not lose by more than we'd won that first leg. So for me, you know, personally, I've got some experience of not getting too overawed what happens in the first leg, and knowing that everything's possible in the second leg. But obviously that was 12 years ago. You know, and a lot of water's gone under the bridge since then.
I was going to say, will you use kind of experiences from that time this week in your prep, and again next week, that, you know, you'll go back to that time of what maybe you did, because I know you did certain things and got into the players' heads with certain things. Yeah, it is going to be crucial, I imagine.
A little bit. We will use it a little bit, but it's very hard for us to use some of the things, because we probably have more than one thing planned for the second leg, dependent on the first leg. And that's kind of the way we're looking at it now, because there's going to have to be some things that are going to happen or not happen in this first leg to create scenarios second leg around, you know, some of your approaches to certain opportunities you might get. And I think that'd be the same for most sides. You know, at the moment we're just preparing to win a game of rugby, because ultimately if you win 2 games you get the job done. But obviously we have made the players aware, you know, that it's down to that aggregate point score, and it is not a scenario where it's ever going to be okay to take your foot off the gas. But I think that will be the message across the board for every club, because no one will want to concede soft points. You know, soft points are going to kill you.
Tactics are going to change as well in that respect, aren't they? There may be, like you said,
I think they'll certainly change second leg. I think most clubs will follow tactics that they would follow to win a game of rugby, and to obviously try and win it well. Whether tactically things might shift a little bit second leg, they certainly might. But as I said, you know, I don't want to talk too much about second leg without this first leg. This first leg, we're just going to really enjoy it. We're going to try and stay on some upward trajectory as regards our form. We want to get excited about the Highland Cup. You know, we want to take everything out of this game we can, and that's the key for us. You know, get our crowd involved, make it a big night here. You know, 5:30 kick-off should be a great atmosphere. You know, we just got to try and take out this game whenever we can.
Go back to Bath last weekend, and you had a good start. You had an iffy pit in the middle of the first half. Then you went strong towards the end of the first half, and you really kicked on in that second period. How crucial was that, and has that laid the foundations for what you want this week?
I think it was probably a microcosm of our season a little bit, the game, wasn't it? In that, you know, we start the game, great ambition, keep the ball, everything looks quite good, and then the first chance we had to have a little bit of a wobble, we had one. And that's a little bit what the season's been like, that there's been patches where we've looked as good as anything in the league. but then there's been little things that have just made us drop off a little bit, have a little bit of a wobble. Because if you look at the two of the scores, I mean, they're I'm not going to say they're embarrassing, but we're so passive defensively that we've got to kind of say that you can't afford to be like that in these next 2 weeks. But then if you look at the second half on its own, or pretty much the last 50 minutes, you would probably go, well, that's Exeter against as anything as good they've done against Bath for the last 10 years. I mean, 42 points. I think we've once got in the 50s against Bath in a game that just blew open in the second half. But I think in that game, I think Bath might have scored a similar amount of points as well. So we've actually ended up with a very good point score in our favour, but only really gone what you call it full on Exeter for about 50 minutes. And that's probably our season. Our probably season is a little bit like that. It's probably like a 5 out of 8 kind of season, isn't it? That's what some of the games have been like. And I think that's our challenge. Our challenge is to stay on this upward path, keep kind of focusing very hard on our basics and our foundations and our basic elements that look after us and challenge the opposition. It's a really weird scenario because I can actually see us being very, very good before the end of the season, but our challenge will be being very, very good soon enough for it to really matter.
You mentioned to the media about the impact the crowd had last week, that they kind of knew that you were in the last chance saloon. They lifted you. They'll be needed again this weekend. It's the last of 4 home games, but
yes,
they'll play their part, I'm sure.
Definitely. I actually thought last week was better than the week, definitely different to the week before. I kind of got the feeling that they were like, here we go, this is important today, and you could feel it in the vibe and in the plate and the noise and around the ground. And certainly they stuck at it in the first half because it was tough. First half was tough to watch. I always find it tough to watch. But then, fair play, the players kind of ignited them just before half time, and then it was fantastic. It was one of the best atmospheres I've heard here for the season, really. And obviously there was some great tries, there was some great things for them to celebrate, great things for them to enjoy. And I think it's kind of, hopefully it's what we're really, really driving to really push through and drive for the rest of the season, because that's what we want it to be. We want it to be a vibrant place, a place people want to be, they want to be involved in the rugby, and we want to give them something that's very easy to watch.
What of Munster? What are you expecting?
Just to be very competitive in all areas. I mean, I think that's the key when you play the Irish sides. The one thing you do continually find is that you're kind of being challenged all the time in all areas. That's what they do consistently better than a lot of other teams. We would like to think that's been one of our strengths as well, and so I think that's why the games between us have tended to be pretty tight and often come down to goal kicking and bits and pieces like that. And I can kind of see why that happens. Obviously, both teams would like to blow it open, wouldn't they, and gain a real ascendancy somewhere. We all work to get some ascendancy in a couple of areas if we can. But as I say, we know it's going to be a challenge, but it's nice to know sometimes it's a challenge across the 80 minutes because it gives you nowhere to go.
Cool.